It is now time for Reading with Batman, with your host, Batman.
Yes. Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. Name's Batman. You might know me from such things as, well, the best superhero movies ever created. And, some of you may be wondering, Batman, what do you do in your spare time when you're not saving the world, or just Gotham City? Well, I like to sit back with either a good book, or sometimes I like to watch my favorite YouTubers do what they do best, act like fucking idiots. So, now you know, and please enjoy this video of Batman Arkham Origins, a game about me, Batman. Justice.
To the Batmobile. Let's go.
Batman Arkham Origins is the third game in the Arkham series. While developer Rocksteady were busy making the true finale to the trilogy, Batman Arkham Knight, they decided to outsource this game to Warner Bros. Montreal, Batman Arkham Origins, a prequel to the other two games. Now, while Arkham Asylum and Arkham City had great world building, great character development, awesome stories, and they really made you feel like the Batman, this game decided to take things in a new direction. It's at Christmas! So, with that being said, how is it? Let's find out in my mighty review of Batman Arkham Origins.
Presentation.
Arkham Origins is the story of the events leading up to the construction of the infamous Arkham Asylum from the first game. Being a prequel, it stars Batman 2 years into his vigilante career. He's still seen as a threat by police, a myth by criminals, and being questioned about his life choices by his butler Alfred. The story takes place on Christmas Eve, and after killing the police commissioner, the villain Black Mask hires 8 vigilantes to kill Batman for a huge bounty. Each of the assassins also has their own specialty. Copperhead has poison, Deadshot has gunplay, Bane has brute strength, and so on. Oh, and Joker's here, played by Troy Baker doing his best Mark Hamill impression.
Well, this should be interesting.
Actually, he does a great job, just like the other voice actors in the game. Although the Cockney accents used by Penguin and his assistants are really awful, even for something meant to be cartoonish.
I see your lips flapping, Bernie, but they ain't making the sound I want to hear.
Now there's a naughty geezer, proper naughty, and he deserves a right proper welcome, don't he, lads?
The music is great as always, but with a Christmassy twist on the classic soundtrack with chimes and bells added in, making for a nice touch. The graphics are about the same as Arkham City, which is to say not all that special considering this game came out 2 years later, and unfortunately they still haven't managed to make Gotham feel like a real city. Nobody's walking the streets because of some stupid ban thing on Christmas Eve, and it all feels like a place designed to be in a video game, which is fine since gameplay is always more important than presentation, but if older games like Infamous and even Spider-Man 2 can nail this aspect of a game, Batman deserves to stalk Gotham on a night when people roam the streets and drive their cars everywhere. The story is alright, with some plot twists I didn't see coming and a dark tone that's very nice to see Batman in. The darker world leads to more intimidating villains, as you believe they might actually kill people and make you feel responsible for not saving them. That being said, there are definitely some characters thrown in for show and not much else, such as Penguin's brief appearance. It feels cheap instead of being necessary or motivated. On top of that, of all the characters they bring out on Christmas Eve, with snow everywhere, no Mr. Freeze? Either way, the story is competent and makes me want to see what's coming next, which is all you can really hope for in a game like this. But how does Batman have access to some of his best gadgets that he didn't have until Arkham City? Why? This is a prequel to the other games, and WB Montreal chose the lazy route of giving him the same shit he had before. Even with something like the grappling hook, why not make it more like the classic hook that didn't pull Batman up? He could have swung through the city like Spider-Man, just like he does in the animated series. It's a minor complaint, but a valid one for sure. The game runs pretty consistently, with only a few frame drops occurring during big fights, but again, in a city where there are no people around to take up graphics processing, it's kinda sad that they can't get like 30 goons on screen to fight at once without the frames per second dropping to around 18. Still, the best part of the presentation in Arkham Origins is the combat system. When fighting in the previous Arkham games, the animations were cool, but counters and takedowns only had a few variations between them. By the end of these games, Arkham City in particular, the combat started to feel repetitive simply because I had to see the same animations over and over again. In this game, the animations are much more varied. Countering when standing next to someone has a different animation than if you're further away. Same with different points in someone's attack, what weapon they're using, taking out multiple guys at once, etc, etc. I just wish the lines they say while fighting and during the Predator missions had more variations, especially given how many times you have to fight in this game.
Gameplay.
Arkham Origins plays exactly like Arkham City. The combat might be a bit faster and snappier, but overall it feels identical. The combat system is almost exactly the same as Arkham City in that you mash square to fight, triangle to counter, circle to stun special enemies, and X to get behind them. My biggest problem is still very much in this game, in that you can't counter out of a takedown, which makes no sense seeing as you can counter just about any other time, just not when you're kneeling on top of a guy about to knock him out. The only major difference in this game is the Electrocutioner's gloves, which you get about 2/3 of the way through the game. By fighting, you charge them up, which makes no sense whatsoever, but okay. Then you can activate them to get stronger for a few seconds, and essentially beat any special enemy with one hit. The gloves are nice, but they aren't enough to freshen up a combat system that's needed a new coat of paint for years now. I will say that the AI has improved somewhat.
Oh, this ain't fair!
Well, at least it can be a real challenge sometimes. I probably died more in this game than in the other two games combined, but overall, if it weren't for the new animation system, fighting would be pretty damn stale, even if it is still fun to knock out bad guys. As far as the Predator segments go, they're exactly the same as Arkham City. Sure, they might have a couple of new gadgets to play with, but everything else is exactly the same. On top of that, these segments are my favorite part of the Arkham games, and there's practically none in this game compared to the other two. The developers probably noticed that there weren't a lot of new things to do, so figured that by having less stealth segments, people wouldn't get bored of them, and then they could have a nice game with a bow on top. But honestly, they were right. The segments are still fun, but by the end, I was mostly left disappointed by the small amount of them. I wish they had had more variations and then more reasons to put in Predator missions. I almost had no upgrades in this path by the end of my game simply because there was no chance for me to get those upgrades. In addition to the main story, there are side objectives to complete involving various villains in Batman lore. Some of the main assassins are actually side missions, which is pretty nice because you could be running around the world and maybe get a nice surprise every now and again. There's also some other side villains that Black Mask didn't hire, and of course the infamous Riddler challenges.
Are in order. Maybe you're not as stupid as I've been led to believe.
Why are you doing this, Enigma?
Direct, I like it. So, I'll tell you. Gotham's sullied. It's filled with brutes who control this city through violence and intimidation.
You didn't answer my question.
Because you didn't let me finish!
Most of these involve going to a place on the map and then either beating some guys up, solving a stupidly simple puzzle, or hitting a target. This isn't engaging. There are so many of these challenges that have no real purpose other than to keep you busy and extend the playtime, and it just gets boring after a while. On the bright side, getting around Gotham is still fun. Flying around super quick and getting a really long flight going are still very satisfying. I've heard people complain about the bridge taking forever to get through, but honestly, it takes like 20 seconds and I don't mind it. It's a nice break from the action. Plus, if it's too much of a hindrance, you can take the Batwing to drop points on the map. Granted, half the time the cutscene will not make any sound. See here. Even when the cutscene does make noise, it's sometimes faster just to fly from point to point instead of taking the Batwing anyway. Now, the side missions involving the boss fights with assassins are really fun, and the ones in the main mission are as well, except Deathstroke. I don't get why everybody's jizzing their pants over this stupid boss fight. All you do is counter him when he attacks, and then take a few swings, and then you counter, and then take a few swings. Rinse and repeat for what feels like 20 minutes, and I don't care how cool the animation is. This fight is repetitive and boring. The other ones are cool though.
Mighty conclusion.
In the end, Batman Arkham Origins is a decent attempt to recreate what the first two Arkham games did. It does improve on some areas, although it falls flat on some others, and it's just a great attempt to return to Gotham, and it stays true to form. The Christmas setting is a great way to bring new life into the franchise, although I wish it would have been done with the gameplay and design a little bit more. So, with that in mind, my final Mighty review score for Batman Arkham Origins is 7 broken necks out of 10. You know, that's my third 7 out of 10 in a row for a game review. And I don't know, it just seems like maybe I should play something that'll break the streak. I wonder, what game could make me give it something other than a 7?